All right, it's time for our TV roundup. Spartacus Vengeance. David, Dennis, you just seen it. Why don't you tell us what you thought, Dennis?
Spartacus is a highly fictionalized version of the tale of Spartacus, who was a Thracian soldier who became a slave and then a gladiator and then rebelled from Rome, led a slave revolt.
The Romans took everything from me.
Your heart still beats.
We will see our numbers grow. And when they have become legion, we will repay with blood. You condemned us to slavery. Soon I will have your life.
This is actually what they call the second season, but it's really season 3, and it's been delayed a year. They had to recast the lead because
Spartacus.
The original actor, Andy Whitfield, contracted cancer. And as unusual for a network, they did something very clever, which is they decided to do a prequel series, and they called that Spartacus, Gods of the Arena. And it was quite a good series in and of itself. Then Andy Whitfield unfortunately passes away and they have to recast. So they bring in Liam McIntyre to play Spartacus, and they start production on this second season, which is now the 3rd series of Spartacus.
Because it's highly serialized, you can't just jump right in and try to figure out what's going on. And I hadn't watched Spartacus up until this point, so what I had to do is I had to go back and watch some of the episodes of the first season with Andy Whitfield as Spartacus to bring me up to speed. And the problem I have with this show is one of comprehension, that even though this takes place in ancient Rome, the showrunner and the writers of the show decided to have the dialogue be in Chaucerian English, which is a little bit difficult to understand. And I found that I really had to pay attention to the show, so much so that I had to watch it twice just to understand a lot of the dialogue, because that's not something that your ear is used to.
I would discuss this with someone of note.
Who's otherwise detained in view of last night. He sends apologies. Seppius, however, is eager for audience.
A man has Praetor Verinius's ear. I have no desire for his tongue to fill mine as well.
I actually really like that. What the writers are trying to do is they're trying to get across that the characters are speaking in Latin, which is a very formalized way of speaking, and so they speak very formalized.
I understand that.
Now, I think that they're very clever in their dialogue, and I dig that.
This show traffics very much in what a gladiator show should be. There's lots of fighting and lots of violence and buckets of blood pouring from people's heads.
There are buckets of blood.
So that's what they should call it. Spartacus, buckets of blood pouring from people's heads, which is okay, because that's what I expect from this type of genre of show. But what I thought was really gratuitous was the sex in this show. And it really didn't make much sense to me in terms of how it interplayed with the story. Certainly in the orgy scene, Spartacus and his men come in and they slaughter everyone. But the orgy scene goes on for about 5 minutes before they come in and do the slaughter. And I'm like, well, at least it seemed that long to me. And I love orgy scenes just as much as the next guy, okay?
One thing I can't fault you on is the serialization of the story.
Absolutely.
It really does tend to lose people. You have to start at the beginning. That is a throwback to the actual origins of what this show is. This show is essentially a Skinamax type skin flick soap opera.
Really?
It's a nighttime soap opera that really transcends its origin.
Which is why it's on STARZ.
Which is why it's on STARZ. But it transcends it so well that it's now virtually mainstream. What I love about this show are the characters. And I've said it 100 times. The TV show lives and dies on the strength of its characters.
Completely agree with that.
The stories of the Romans can often be as interesting or more interesting than the stories of the slaves and gladiators. You really kind of feel sorry for the Romans and some of the things that they have to go through. They're keeping slaves and forcing them to murder each other. So they can't be all that sympathetic.
Let's talk about the performances, because certainly, as you mentioned, it's a big deal to replace the lead actor. They replaced Spartacus when Andy Whitfield passed away. Liam McIntyre took his place. What do you think about the performance? Because you obviously have watched all the shows. I think you could do a better comparison than I can.
I think Liam McIntyre has a really hard job. He's coming in the middle of the second act, taking over a character. He hasn't had the chance to grow with that character. That's got to be really hard. And I think that he's done a really good job of it.
Supplies! Be quick. Take anything of value.
Spartacus, you leave him naked in the sun?
No. I send a message to an old friend.
I also am very pleased to see Lucy Lawless back.
Ah, Xena.
But she's very different in this premiere episode.
Initially.
Yeah, it's like she's shell-shocked and she's kind of bumbling and unsure of where she is or what she's going on. Yeah, she's gone mad, which is very different than the 2 or 3 episodes I watched of season 1 where she's very much more like Xena. I really enjoyed the production values in this show. It has a very highly digitized feel, much like 300. The problem I do have is that there's all of these really stylized, glorified shots of blood beautifully streaming in slow motion out of people's heads. And after a while I'm going, okay, I got the blood. Give me more battle, give me less blood.
All right, guys, how about you take it to a vote?
Sure.
I love TV, but I am clearly not the target demographic for this show. But if you like 300 and Gladiator shows in this vein, then I'll give it a stream it.
Spartacus isn't for everyone. It's clear. My recommendation is watch the pilot. If you like the pilot, then you've got a lot of fun TV ahead of you. And so that's why I give it a see it.
All right, your votes add up to 1.5 tickets, which is a see it for Spartacus Vengeance.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.